There's this other great quote. It's like the cave that you least want to enter holds the treasure that you seek.
Living an epic freelance life isn't just having adventures. I truly believe it's living life intentionally. And that means like you need to know yourself.
It's all the same thing. Like your life is your life. Your personal life is your freelance life. Your freelance life is your personal life. There's no work-life balance. It's all integrated. It's all who you are. When things are shit at home, things are shit at work. It's like it's all one.
This is Philip Van Nostrand, and you are listening to the Epic Freelance Life podcast. How to make more money and live an epic freelance life. All right, welcome back. This is Phil Van Nostrand with the Epic Freelance Life podcast, and I am chatting with Ben Hartley right now. I'm really excited about this. Ben, you want to tell us who you are and where you're from?
Hey, sure. So who I am and where I'm from. So I'm Ben Hartley. I'm currently right now in the Midwest. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, but working on building a home down in Florida right now. And
Nice.
so give me a few months and I'll be that way.
And what do you do? Like, I don't want to say what you do, but like, what are you involved with these days?
I'm involved. Well, I've got a Saturday morning soccer game for my 6-year-old daughter. I'm pretty involved there.
Mm-hmm.
No, so I've got I think that's kind of important, especially when we're thinking about just like the dynamics of a freelancer's life. Because I've been married for 11 years. I have 3 little ones. I got, like I said, my daughter B. And then I've got 2 boys that happen to be twins. They're 4, so things are pretty wild there. And then a lot of my time is spent kind of split within 2 different spaces. One being that I serve couples, so I'm still a full-time wedding photographer. Been doing that for the last 11 years,
Nice.
photographing a wedding this weekend, and the next weekend, and the next weekend.
Oh my gosh.
You know how that goes.
Yeah.
And then beyond serving my couples to produce images, I also serve the photography community. And so I have a weekly podcast called the 6-Figure Photography Podcast with Ben Hartley. And so I'm doing that each week. And then I also have a mastermind group. And this is kind of my little space, my corner of the internet. It's a free space. There's over 18,000 photographers there. And there's probably 18,000 photographers there because I do free coaching 3 days a week in that group. And so I'm spending a lot of time just kind of like with my ear to the pavement. I think that's a phrase, right? Something like that, ear to the
ground.
Ear
to the ground, yeah. Your ear to the ground and your feet on the pavement.
There it is. But what I was trying to get at is this: like, I spent a lot of time trying to understand what are the problems that photographers are facing. What are the frustrations, the stress points? What are the wins? How is the industry changing, evolving, all that kind of stuff? And so it's a great space for just to.
I love this. I'm finding like a theme among a lot of the people that I've interviewed is basically a lot of leaders and people that are living cool lives that I'm interested. I think I'm attracted to people who are good at building community, and it sounds like that's exactly what you've done. Big community too, and I love that. I want to know maybe like a logistics question right off the back. Where do you all your people gather? Is this like a private Facebook community or something else?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, the space that I mentioned is just a Facebook group. If anyone wants to check it out, benhartley.com/mastermind will take you right there. So that is kind of that is the hub where there's the most like social interaction. People can ask questions, comment, support each other. And then, there's the other places that are off of that. The email list and that kind of stuff, but that's less of a group conversation and more of a one-way street in some regards. I mean, they can certainly reply, but they can't see all of the interaction.
Yeah. Okay. And then does that community sort of like, I want to know how you make money off of them. That's sort of like a blunt question, but like where I know that you're probably feeding your soul by giving back, but I want to know like how do you end up making money through this as well? Because I'm sure there's a funnel into like coaching or speaking or something. So I'm curious, like how else is that picture rounded out?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it certainly has been a long-term game. I mean, it's like showing up for the first like 6 years, there wasn't a huge monetary direct result,
Yeah, of
that comes
course.
from just like showing up, even in the podcast, showing up each week and recording an episode and posting it out.
Yep.
But it's just kind of like the small, consistent actions. That being said, now that the group has continued to grow and I've developed I've just kind of honed my messaging more, I've understood how I can really serve them. Now there are opportunities for people who want to go beyond just like the free coaching that's in the group, the weekly videos, the podcast, that kind of stuff. And so from there's kind of like two key areas that I offer that to people who want to go all in. And so one
Mhm.
of those is I do have an online course called Booked Solid. It's really for wedding and portrait photographers to help them win more inquiries, but not just get any old inquiry. The second part of it is to maximize profits. So as they're booking people, they're actually booking people at the right price point who value their work. And so that would be like the online course that they could choose to invest
Yeah.
in. And then I also do have a workshop at my house. I do it a couple times a year. There's no like set schedule,
Mhm.
but it's a 3.5 day workshop that I usually have anywhere from 10 to 20 photographers come and spend 3.5 days with me. And
Cool.
that is a very hands on, uh, like workshoppy type of workshop,
Yeah.
meaning we're going to like get into the business. We're going to start applying stuff. We're going to role play. I'm going to put them in the hot seat. They're going to do like an actual client phone call in
This
front of me,
is
and then we're going to
so
critique it.
good.
Very like,
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
It's
crucible of
uh,
sorts.
dude, if every photographer could do that year 1 with you, it would probably change their entire career forever. I
100%.
wish I
Well,
had
some of them
something like that.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it blows my mind. And they're always the ones, by the way, the ones who are like, I have only photographed 2 weddings. I don't even know if I should be there. Those are the ones that like 100% should be there. They deserve to be there more than anybody. And it's been so cool just to see their careers like
I love
go
that.
from there. As long as they're willing to put in the work, right? It's not like
Yeah.
showing up to a workshop is going to like change everything. But usually the people who are committed to showing up to a workshop are also committed to putting in the work.
I love this, man. And and you're still doing weddings too. I'm actually in I normally live in Colorado. Sorry, I normally live in New York, but I'm in Colorado right now because I'm about to shoot a wedding in Vail tomorrow. So,
Nice.
but yeah, but I'm same thing. I got a wedding this weekend. I think next weekend is off, and then another weekend is on, and so yeah, it's the same old thing. Um,
Mhm.
and so you it sounds like you've got income coming in like 3 different ways. Is there anything else that I'm missing? It's the wedding stuff, it's the booked solid course, and it's also, maybe your retreats at your house?
Yeah, well, then we could talk about investments. We also
Yeah,
also
yeah,
got that.
please.
But then beyond that too, I don't know, and it could be also this would be an important conversation to have. Like I've had a lot of things that I've tried,
Yeah.
and
I know
most of them
I saw in one
haven't
of your bios, you were selling clay in your backyard. There's something else?
Sure. I mean, those are like the cute little things that like make for
Yeah.
great bios, but like actual businesses. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like as an adult. Um, and so I've had my hands in a lot of things, and again, I think it's healthy to talk about that. That like not everything was a home run, not everything worked,
Yep.
and actually some of the things I think could have worked. I just didn't like how they made my life turn out. Like I think I could have made money, but I don't think I would have liked myself. And so
Sure.
I kind of stopped doing those things. So I have, let's kind of go down the line here. We can talk about any number of these.
Yeah.
But to start, I had my wedding photography business, and at some point, I had grown that up to 5 full-time photographers, salary, staff, everything, that kind of
Oh
a
my
thing.
gosh. Yeah.
Then I also had a second photography business that was a lower priced, like a more of a commoditized photography studio, right?
Mhm.
For people who couldn't afford my main brand. And it was an entirely different brand. It wasn't just like associates of the other one. I had a photo booth business. I had a commercial video production studio as well. That one was pretty cool. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed that. Um, then from there, coaching. So I have the coaching thing has been different than the online courses.
Mm-hmm.
Because within my coaching business, I also trained another coach, and so it was he was also coaching people essentially on my behalf, right? Like
Yeah,
going through my training, actually going and coaching, and then from there, now the online kind of side of things, which I would kind of categorize the podcast into the online course, the community, that kind of stuff.
sure.
Yeah,
That's
and I might
amazing,
have
man.
missed something in there. I feel like there was probably another thing in there that happened.
No, no, that's a lot. And but are you
Yeah.
saying that you've peeled off like that that lower level photo business? Is that done now? Is like the commercial
Yeah.
video done now?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, these are all things that like
Interesting.
they had like I was just testing and learning and thrashing. Like,
Yeah.
oh, do I want a life like could this get me the life that I want to live?
Okay. So,
Maybe, maybe not. No,
oh
okay,
my
so I'm
gosh.
not really into this. Okay,
All
cool.
right.
What could this?
Yeah, this is so good, man. Exactly what you're saying. I have two questions for you then. One,
Yeah.
how did you officially end those things? Cuz I feel like starting something is easy, but like killing it officially is can be complicated. I wonder if in like a minute or two you can explain how you killed off
Oh
these side
man.
projects. Yeah.
I wonder if this is just like a mindset thing because I think the exact opposite. I'm like, oh, you just
Oh.
stop doing it. You just literally stop.
But like inquiries must still be coming in. Like, did you
And you
turn off
just
the
ignore them. You
website?
just like,
Oh
all
my
right, just turn it.
gosh.
It's just like, all right, it's all done. It's not a thing anymore. Just like
That's
delete the
impressive.
Google listing, and now I'm not a service. So
Okay.
it was
So
cool.
you just turned it off.
I'm not.
Then
By
the
the
other
way, I'm not suggesting that's the right thing to do. I
no,
just
no.
never let that get to me. I was just like, all right, well, now I'm just done. So I'll go put my energy elsewhere.
Well, it's impressive. I think what I'm like
Can I
reading
actually
between the
put a
lines.
little?
Oh yeah,
Can I put a little
please
asterisk there to be
go ahead.
clear?
Yes,
This is, by the way, wrapping up all client work that was delivered. I
of
want to say this
course. You
because
didn't leave anybody
I
hanging.
exactly, but this is an important thing to note because within the photography industry, I know personally two brands, one of which I hired, that did the thing where they're just like, all right, well, I'm done, but they said I'm done in the middle of people, who had
Woo.
just paid them money, and then they disappeared. So
Yeah, I
I
wouldn't.
do feel like it's
Yeah,
important to acknowledge that this is not well, it's my life, I'm going to do whatever, I'm out. I fulfilled my agreements that people were expecting me to, right?
that's great. Of
Um,
course,
and
I
then I
actually
just
sort of
stopped
just
chasing
assumed
it.
that. Yeah,
Sure, you would think that, but there's two
yeah.
people in the photo industry that burned an entire group of people in the process. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's unfortunate. And no, you did the right thing. Obviously, I think what I was imagining was hard is to like turn down what I call easy money. You know, if you had money coming in through these different things, I think it's so hard to start saying like no to that. Or for
yeah,
some people, maybe not for
yeah.
you, but yeah, kudos to you for being able to like end something when you know it was finished. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I get
Um,
that. And I think I had a harder time with turning down the easy money or like um, just because a weekend doesn't have anything scheduled on it doesn't mean I'm available. That was
yeah.
a hard lesson for me to learn as a wedding photographer because I'd look at a calendar and be like, oh, yeah, I'm available. And then I'd be like 50 weddings in. I'd be
Ugh,
like, what have I done?
yeah.
Uh, and I think kids really helped me with that. I think early on, I was always available. It was air quote, it was easy money. How can I turn this down? And
Sure.
then now that I've got little ones and I'm looking at my daughter's soccer game this Saturday, and now I'm like, oh, this is how I can turn this down. It
But didn't
makes
you
a lot
just
of
say you have a
sense.
wedding this weekend?
Yeah, so Saturday, well, we got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, my man. And so
Oh my
Saturday
gosh.
morning, Saturday morning, well, it's actually not even morning. I was surprised. I don't know if you played soccer, but I remember like those games being like 9 a.m. You'd be out there like
Yeah.
sucking on orange slices and kicking
Yep.
balls. No, it was just like noon or something. Anyhow, yeah,
Uh,
so we got a Sunday game here. I'm sorry, Saturday game, Sunday win.
oh, cool. That works out perfectly. You mentioned something earlier in the when you were describing leaving the side projects, and you said, I don't know if this business is going to give me the life that I want.
Hmm,
Do you remember saying that?
I do.
And what is the life that you are? How do you know what life you want? And can you describe to us what that life is right now?
Yeah. Um, so this is a maybe this is a an obvious statement, but it's worth noting. Like the life that you want is going to be different than the life that I want, and
Hmm.
so anything that I've done is just it's not a prescriptive thing. It's just kind of how I've gotten the results that I'm after. For me, the life that I would like. I'm going to try to hit on a few things, Phil. I don't have this like pegged, and so give me
Sure,
some
sure.
grace as I meander through this.
You have tons of
Um,
grace, Ben.
so first thing, the life that I would like is that I would like to like myself. I would like to be able to rest my head at night,
Mm.
liking who I was that day, and I'd like to wake up liking who I'm becoming. You know, like I'm becoming someone, and I want to like who that person is. And so one of those elements is that I contribute to others, and that's a big part of being on this podcast right now. Is just like I like that I'm contributing to the growth of other people, that
Yeah.
other people can win, and so I want to be a part of something that allows me to do that in some capacity. Um, Another value of mine is uh, everything could disappear. And as long as I got my family, that's all that matters. I find great
Mm.
comfort in the fact that I could stop everything. I could not record another episode of the podcast. I could just like disappear from the mastermind group. And by and large, no one would really care. Don't get me wrong, this isn't like I'm not trying to like be all humdrum. It's actually an encouraging thing to me. Like I think that people would like be at Subway one day and be like, "Hey, remember Ben? Remember when we used to make those videos? So that was kind of cool, wasn't
Yeah.
it?" Yeah. Anyhow, do you want another Diet Coke?
Yeah.
And that would be kind of it. And I find that so actually refreshing that
Interesting.
it's a refreshing thing to remind myself that like my family is everything. It's easy to get
Mm.
distracted and to think that like all these people, all these followers, all this success is everything. It's really not. It's my family's everything, and so I want to prioritize those people. And so prioritizing them means that that my marriage stays more than just okay, where she doesn't leave me, but
Yeah.
is something that we're actively working on, that we're having hard conversations, and having a business that creates that space, that there's integration within that. Um, and so yeah, so working on my marriage. So that's why every single week we have a date night every Wednesday. That was just last night. We just had a date,
Nice.
um, and so there'd be that side of things. I think that's the best thing I can do for my kids as well. And so let's go to the kids side of things. It's like I want to be able to show up for them and be present in their lives. And so having a career that allows me to do that, which also means time independent. I don't want to be completely regimented
Yeah.
by time. Okay. And then location. This is why we're moving to Florida because I can. And then after we do that, maybe we'll go buy an RV and go somewhere else.
Hmm.
And I might pick up another home somewhere else. I just want to like travel around and be location independent as well. And so those are a few of like the critical things I would say.
Yeah, that's great. So what I'm understanding then is that the other projects, like entrepreneurial projects that you had started, were taking away from some of this stuff.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, also, the other thing too would be like when I think about designing the life that I want to live, um, I I'm choosing to not be a great manager of people. And I'm wording
Mm.
it that way because I think it's easy for me to just be like, well, I'm not very good at managing people, so like I don't want to have like a whole team under me.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bit of a cop out. I get that we have strengths and weaknesses, but we can always develop these things. And I just don't want to develop myself as like a manager of people. I really don't
Got
want
it.
to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't want a bunch of employees. I don't want a bunch of
Yeah. So
photographers that I have to
you're,
manage.
yep. I love it. What you're describing is actually a key concept in one of my favorite books right now called Company of One.
Hmm.
The subtitle is called, or the subheading is called, "Why Staying Small It Could Be the Best Thing for Your Business."
Yep.
And the whole idea that this guy came out of sort of Silicon Valley, like startup culture, but he was like excessive growth and like infinite growth with no cap is not really shouldn't be anybody's goal, and it's almost always unsustainable, and there's burnout and all kinds of stuff. He's like he's like staying small but growing. You can grow in different ways. Like you can grow your freedom or your time or how much money you make per job. It doesn't have to be more jobs or more, and the idea of like paring down or downsizing to be happier is like a huge sign of success. And I think you just described exactly that process, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. You should read it.
Thank you.
You'll like it.
Okay. Yeah. I'll check it out. I'll
Um,
check it out.
and so I want to know. So family is obviously really important. Do you guys? What about your life feels epic, if anything? Like I don't just imagine that you are like a suburban dad who's like going to his daughter's soccer game. I mean, that's fine and nice, but also I'm imagining that there's some excitement in there that's sort of out like that looks cool from the outside. Maybe not.
Man, so that's the thing. Like, it is epic.
Yeah.
Like, this moment right now is epic. And I've had to go to the other side of the spectrum to see that. Like, I've had to get to that point of exhaustion of like, man, destination weddings aren't freaking epic.
Ah,
It's exhausting. It's taxing on my marriage. It hurts my like.
yeah.
It puts me behind in work. It puts me behind in my relationships. It puts me
Hmm.
behind financial. Like, they're not epic. Do you know what's epic? What's epic is photographing a wedding 5 minutes down the road from your house for $10,000, being home by 8 p.m. and watching a movie with your wife. That's freaking
Yeah. I love this. You're giving me
epic.
goosebumps. I like that.
So,
Yeah.
so, like, honestly, even as I say that, my goal for 2022 is to not photograph a single wedding that's more than 20 minutes away from my home. That's epic.
Wow. That's
For
amazing.
me, epic now is, I used to have this idea of like having a studio.
Hmm.
And I have a studio. I'm recording this right now in a studio that I've got to drive through traffic to get to, and then pay a bunch of money to sit here alone. And yeah, I get to get things done. But what's epic is going to be when, as we're building our house in Florida, my studio is going to be in the house. It's going to be a third car garage. I'm going to soundproof it. I'm going to punch a hole in the wall and make a window there. That's going to be epic. The fact that I don't need to leave. So it's like
Yeah.
it changes. And this maybe gets into like the journey of like
Yeah.
um, how we view success and what the journey of a freelancer can be. So no, my view of epic is very different these days,
No,
man.
I like that actually, and I appreciate that because I don't necessarily need every person on my podcast to be like a digital nomad or traveling the world or whatever. So thank you for saying that because I hope that you will give at least one person listening the freedom to be able to like stay at home and feel good about it, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
um, and what you're describing is really like what you said it earlier a little bit, like designing your life that suits your personality and also your circumstances.
yeah.
Obviously your life is going to look very different if you're married and if you have kids on top of that, and if you want to preserve your marriage or you want to build things that are not just your business and money, right?
Yes.
So I like that, man. It sounds like you've been very intentional about a lot of stuff.
I've had a number of coaches
Yeah.
be able to look at my life, look at the results that I was getting, and then ask myself or like challenge me
Hmm.
to consider, are the results that I'm getting what I want? Like what I say I'm up to. Because we always say we want things. We're always talking. I say I
Sure.
want this. I say I want that. But like, are results revealing that? Because we say we want all kinds of stuff, but the results speak truth. And so being able to have coaches look into my life and be like, hey, you say you want this, but your results are showing something else. Let's look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, like, how are you? That's great. And are you, hmm, you willing to get personal a little bit?
Sure. I'll just tell you no if you ask me something I don't want to answer.
All right, sure, sure.
Guys, like, shoot, man, go for it.
Well, because you mentioned like preserving the marriage a few times, so I'm guessing that things got really hard for you at one point. And so I want to know if you're currently, you said you have coaches, but have you ever like done couples therapy, or what do you think about that in general? And also, second question or follow-up question, how are you having those hard conversations with your wife? Because you said date night, but you didn't explain the having like challenging conversations part.
Okay. So there's a few questions that you asked. And
Yeah.
so my request is, as I try to remember them and I answer one, I might forget the other. So get back into it
I'll
with
come
me. Like
back in
hold
there.
me, hold me to it. Okay.
Sure.
So start at the top. Which give me one question out of those because I already forgot
Um,
them.
yeah. So were things, it sounds like things might have been
Yes.
challenging in your relationship
Listen,
at some point.
it wasn't that it was hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
And and that's okay. I guess I also want to say that. Like I'm not resisting that it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like marriage is really hard. And we're fighting for it. But there's definitely been times that it's been harder and we weren't sure if we were willing to fight for it. And we've
Mm.
had those conversations. Um, and so yes, to the I think the other question, it's like yes, we've had numerous times having a marriage coach in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we currently don't. That's not a prescriptive thing. It's just our last kind of time had gone, and so
Yeah.
yeah. So we've had that multiple times this year, including in those times.
Nice.
It's always been really, really beneficial. I highly recommend having a coach, a counselor, a therapist, someone that you can talk to, that can listen and offer feedback without judgment, that can be that third party that doesn't have stake in the game to to get
Yeah.
what they want, to look good and feel good and be right. Um, speaking, back into you. So yeah.
I love that. And then, yeah, I think you basically answered. Oh, so now I want to know currently, how are you keeping an open conversation with your wife? Like date night could be nice, but it could also be surfacey if you don't like push a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is
Yeah.
like more maybe advice for the couples out there who are also like working crazy jobs and like, you know what I mean, trying to like do their thing and be married and have a family and stuff.
Yeah. This phrase, this quote, it just left me, and so I'm like reaching for it,
Mm.
but it's a willingness to hear the things that you least want to hear, and then the courage to say the things that you least want to say.
Ooh, that's good.
Um, And there's a sexier way to put that whole quote together, but I think that's what we've been challenged in our marriage is that thing. There's this other great quote. It's like the cave that you least want to enter holds the treasure that you seek.
Mm.
The cave that you least want to enter holds the treasure you seek. And there's a conversation that is terrifying, that's loaded, that you feel like you can't have because if you have it, you might hurt the person. If you have it, it might open you up to being hurt. And within that conversation lies the connection that you seek. And so it's kind of this pursuit, and it's not a perfect pursuit, but it's the pursuit to have courage to say things we don't want to say, and then to be willing to hear things that we don't want to hear.
Yeah, that's
Um,
so great. All right.
yeah, and
And
Leslie's really good at it, by the way.
yeah, I
Leslie's
was gonna say,
much
it sounds
better
like she's
than
on
I
board
am.
with this too.
She is, man, that girl, she's, she says some things and I'm like, shit, how did like, and it's incredible. And it's so courageous. Some of the things that she's
This is good.
willing to say to me, um,
So
that, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I just want to tie this in because in case like our listener is being like, how does this epic freelance life? Living an epic freelance life isn't just having adventures. It's I truly believe it's living life intentionally. And and that means like you need to know yourself and you need to know what works for you and what doesn't work for you if you're extroverted or introverted or like if what your attachment theory types are in relationships or all of that stuff. I think it's so helpful to understand how we tick and how we operate so that our life is epic because we are content that we understand what success looks like for ourselves. And it sounds like for you success is like a happy marriage and a great family and family time and nothing else really is like everything else is secondary, right? um
Yeah. Well, and
yeah,
two things I'm going to kind of
yeah,
go after
please.
here a little bit. One is like it's all so an epic freelance like it's all the same thing. Like your life is your life. Your personal life is your freelance life. Your freelance life is your personal life. There's no
Mm-hmm.
work life balance. It's all integrated. It's all
Yep.
who you are. When
Yep.
things are shit at home, things are shit at work. It's like it's all one. And it's not to have a happy marriage.
Oh.
There's this quote, and I don't know who says it, but we discover a level of despair that we can settle for, and we call it happiness. We learn
Mm,
to settle for a level of despair. And then we call that happy, and that happiness is like, well, it's hey, it's walking on eggshells. At least we don't have to have that conversation. It's a lot of like, I'll use kind of a buzzword now, codependence. It's like, well, I won't bring up that thing with them because they're not bringing up this thing with me. We're happy, and we're settling for a level of despair we can tolerate, and it's often
mm,
disconnection. It's allowing me to sit in my own shit because I'm going to allow you to sit in your own shit, and we're
mm-hmm.
just going to call this happy. Okay. And I don't want a happy marriage. I want Leslie to let me know, hey, you said this the other day in front of those people, and I felt small, and I felt
Mm,
unattractive, and it disconnected me from you. It made me not want to actually be with you in that moment, and I wanted you to know that. Like, that is not a happy
woo.
conversation,
Yeah, yeah.
but I
But
don't want to
but
settle
it's
for a level of despair I can tolerate and then just go about
sure.
life calling it happy. Like, I'd rather she like
Yeah.
let me know that what I did made her feel a certain way, and anyhow, and
Yeah,
enter
that's
into
so
that
good.
and be willing to hear the things that I least want to hear. And she was
Yeah,
certainly willing to say the thing that she least wanted to say. Like, that doesn't make the rest of the day easy.
sure. It's
And
not happy, but it's healthy, right? Yeah.
sure, yeah, yeah, yeah,
I like that. Yeah, kudos to you, man. Thanks for this little therapy session
yeah.
on the podcast.
It's mostly
Um,
for me. This is
no,
good
this is
reminders.
I appreciate the honesty and vulnerability. I think it's so important to be able to speak to, um, indirectly or directly what's difficult maybe about being freelance or just being human, honestly. And it
Hmm.
sounds like you're working on it, so I appreciate that.
Hmm.
Um, can I ask you a few questions in the freelance category since it
Let's
sounds
go.
like you're
Let's
like
go.
constantly working with freelancers all the time, or at least coaching with them. Um, do you think that anybody can be freelance?
Sure.
Yeah.
Um, I do. You just have to reconcile with, are you willing to pay the price?
Hmm.
And you've got to make that choice. And some aren't, and some are. I think that everyone gets to choose, and to choose a courageous life is very doable. And when I say a courageous life, I mean it takes courage to be a freelancer because you're taking responsibility for everything that you got.
Yeah.
And that takes courage to say, okay, when I show up in the morning, it's on me. If I put in the work or I don't, it's on me. I am my own boss. And that does take courage. And I believe that every human has the ability to choose that type of courage if they want to. I'm not suggesting that, you're cowardly to not. It just takes a level of courage to do it. And I think that anybody has that ability to choose that.
Got it. Yeah, that's great. Takes the courage to do it. Yes. You mentioned building a home in Florida. Do you have property out there, and are you currently working on something, or what's the game plan there?
Yeah, we just bought we just bought the plot there. It's not like
Mm,
a massive property. It's not like
sure.
our acreage, our acres of land. We have some family that are in St. Petersburg, and so we're going to be outside of St. Petersburg, inland a little bit more.
Cool.
We could get a little bit more house out that way, rather than being right on the coast, to fit my studio and all the kiddos in there. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we're
And
building.
and are you thinking when you have retreats at your home, do people stay with you or do they stay like nearby?
No, the closest that ever happened was I had a gentleman drive from, Canada, and he slept in his truck outside in the street, and by the way, I didn't know he did this. It wasn't like I, like, was, like, letting him just,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
not get a hotel, but then at the end of the conference, I noticed that he just came from his car. So funny. No, so, no, people usually they put themselves up. We get a
Okay.
hotel block.
Got it. That's cool. Because I was gonna say now that you're designing your dream home, I guess you can make it however you want and to accommodate the
Not
things that you're doing.
Yeah, we're not quite at the dream home yet. Like, I'm not at that. This isn't. I haven't
All right,
signed off on, like,
dreamish. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. This is like the next step, but it's definitely not like this is. the dream home that we're like fully sending
Sure.
on. It's like, okay, well, this is another step. This is fun.
I like it. Well, I love that you're integrating the studio into it and thinking about that, right? Like thinking how you're going to use the space consciously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess this is an interesting question that I love asking people are like, what habits do you have that are integrated into your life to ensure that you are living an epic freelance life? You kind of mentioned it with like the habit of having a date night every Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Like for me, I try to travel somewhere new in the world every year that I've never been to. So I put a new passport stamp on.
Mm.
And I don't know if there's like something for you that's like, and even if I'm, not feeling like it, it's like a promise I made to myself back in 2003. So it's always
Yeah.
happening. And it kind of encourages me to continue to learn new things about myself and the world and travel and stuff like that. So do you have habits that you've integrated to ensure that you're living an epic freelance life?
Yeah. I'm going to go a little higher level, and you kind of even tipped off
Yes.
to it, but it is the place that freelancers go to die. And so I'm
Okay,
going to
I'm
bring it up.
excited.
Well, and it's not too sexy until you start actually choosing it and then see the results that you get. But the number one habit that would equate to success or living an epic freelance life is that I honor my word.
Mm,
And uh, what I mean is, when I say I'm going to do something, that is how even as well, let's actually go back to this. I want to like who I was that day when I rest my head.
yes.
Um, the way that I determine that is, did I honor my word today or did I not? It's not, did I make an extra $1,500 today? Did I gain 10 more followers today? Did that post that I made get more likes than yesterday? When I did my live video, did I have more people turn up today than yesterday? It's not even that.
Mm,
That just essentially all boils down to me judging myself and comparing myself to other people. And I am solely determining uh, the success based off, did I honor my word or not? Am I whole? Am I complete? Am I in integrity with the things that I say I'm going to do? And it'll keep you in the game. If you can remove the judgment that you're going to put on yourself based off of all these other indicators that are out of your control, and you can just solely base it off of your word, which is all you got,
mm,
it will keep you showing up. Because otherwise, you're going to say, "Yeah, I'm going to do I'm going to travel anywhere in the world, or once a year, or something like that." Or you'll say, I'm going to post or an Instagram reel
yeah.
once a day, and then you start that, and it's good, and you do day one and day two, and then by day five, you still don't have 100 people watching them,
Hmm.
and you will start to judge yourself based off of that, and
Mm,
you will take yourself out of the game. You'll be like, this isn't working out. I'm no longer doing this. I'm just going to stop showing up.
yeah.
Um, and so I think the number one habit would be honoring my word, which, by the way, is not keeping it. It's not I keep my promises. It's not I keep my word.
Yeah.
And the
You
distinction is, if my commitment is that I keep every promise, I'm setting myself up to break out of integrity with myself. I'm setting
mm,
myself up for failure. And that creates, by the way, that creates me not liking myself. It creates me not respecting myself. It creates me not giving myself more responsibilities in my business and life, because I know I can't keep the smallest of ones.
mm,
And so by saying I honor my word, it's not saying I keep it, because there's also a hierarchy, my dude. Like if Leslie were to call me right now and say, Ben, I need you here, I'm out. There's
yep.
a hierarchy here.
Yeah.
So I would be breaking my word right now. So instead of saying the difference is, when I say I honor it, it's that if I need to go back, if I need to break it, by honoring it, I'm going to let you know, hey, I need to leave right now because of this. I want
Hmm.
to make this up. And now it's making amends for the broken promise,
Yeah.
right?
I love
And it's
this.
like, okay, what do I need to
100%.
do to fix this? How do I need to right this wrong?
Hmm.
And what requests do I need to ask? But I'm going to stay in integrity with myself in the process. Right. Anyhow,
Beautiful.
that would
Very
be
you.
the number one.
I love
The
this.
number one habit is checking yourself. What conversation needs to be had?
Cool.
with yourself, with other people, to get you back in integrity with yourself, where you can now honor your word. And now you're going to stop saying yes to every damn thing. How many of
Yeah.
you say yes to things and then you break it and then you break it and you break it and then
Yeah.
you start feeling like hell? And it takes energy to manage that, by the way. When you break your word, when you're not honoring it, it takes energy to maintain the incompleteness in your life because you got to reconcile with it every day. And that conversation that you're not having because it's scary and you got to let somebody know that you're not going to get hit the deadline or whatever it is, that conversation that you're not having because it sucks and it makes you feel pain, in the process of not having it one time, you are having it every single day, probably multiple times a day. And that takes energy to have in your own head, right? It's like it takes
Yep.
energy and it keeps you out of the game. It keeps you in bed. It keeps you procrastinating. It keeps you small. So I honor my word.
This is so great, man. I wonder, wait, how old are you, by the way?
34.
All right. So interesting because you're speaking. I feel like these are things that I didn't think about that much in my 20s, and I've thought a lot about in my 30s, and I'm actually 40 now, but you're really like speaking wisdom, and there's I'm so interested in the trajectory of your life actually now. What I want to know is because you coach people on how to like make six figures in photography and all this stuff, and it sounds on the surface like it's about financial success, but I wonder if you're coaching like a lot of this, I want to call it sustainable wisdom into the mix, or because this stuff sounds very important and like kind of hot for you. I
Mm-hmm.
wonder how much you're encouraging the young up and comers to like keep their word and like what I mean, be intentional and go into the cave that they don't want to go into.
Yo, dude, why are you blowing my cover right now? No, I mean, you nailed it. It's,
Yeah.
listen, six figure photography is a great, sexy title, and it
Yep.
definitely perks the ears up and it gets clicks. And when you get into it, yes, you've got to be excellent at your craft. And yes, there are steps to take, and there's marketing strategies to implement,
Yep.
and there's systems and processes 100%. But how many of the listeners have learned all the right things to do? They've attended the workshops, they've bought in the course, and then they wake up the next morning and they F it all up,
Mm.
right? Just by showing up as they are in their own skin. And
Hmm.
I say that personally as like I know I've done that for a series of years, about 34 of them.
Uh-huh.
And so uh, there's this idea of the tyranny of how, that we just, everybody thinks that it's all in the how. It's like how to do it, what to do and how to do, what to
Yep.
do and how
Yep.
to do, and we obsess
What are your
over that.
camera settings? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've discovered that it's how we show up. It's what's between our ears that really makes a big difference. So yeah, it's a huge part of what I do. It's a huge part of my coaching and my training, is
Good.
keeping people in the game.
I love this, man. I could talk to you forever about it, but I think I'm going to shut it down here and let you do the rest of your day. So I want to know, maybe final word. Is there any, you sound very wise. I want to know what you're listening to or reading that you think people should consume to help them live their best lives.
Yeah, well, on the topic of our conversation today, I feel like we were pretty relational in some
Yep.
regards. And so
Yeah.
maybe we'll keep this episode kind of more aligned for the freelancers who have well, meaningful relationships. No, that should be everybody. Meaningful
Sure.
relationships,
Sure.
right? And so
Yeah.
maybe a spouse, a parent, children, a girlfriend, boyfriend. There's a really great book called Leadership and Self Deception.
Ooh, I haven't
And I
heard
would
this.
highly recommend this book, Leadership and Self Deception. It
Beautiful.
reads kind of like like more like a story. So it reads, it's like a fiction, a story. And through the telling of the story, you kind of, the information and the ideas get unpacked. So it's not like step one, do this, step two, do this. It's not a how-to book. It's more of, you're going to take away from it what you take away from the story.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. Encouraged, recommended. All our listeners, check it out. Ben, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed talking to you. You're my kind of guy. I can already tell. Let's stay in touch on the back end and continue the conversation more. Yeah.
Thanks, Phil. I really enjoyed that.
Thanks so much for being here.